Hi everyone, strap yourselves in tight. We gonna have a rant tonight. Hi, I'm Mike, and this is CMR. Alright, show of hands, of all you editors out there who have either been asked or asked someone which NLE is better. Is one better than the other? I saw a forum post on this the other day where somebody was asking Sony Vegas versus Adobe Premiere Pro. This matchup means a little more to me personally. Here's why. When I started actually doing video for money, not those imaginary exposure dollars, I started out using Sony Vegas. I got hired to work at a software company, and that was what they had there and available. So I got started using Sony Vegas Pro. I have no idea which version. Eventually I moved up to Adobe Premiere. At the time it was their video suite for CS 5.5, and here's kind of a little bit of background on why I made that transition, and more importantly, how I feel about this question overall. So, Sony Vegas did a lot of things that I really liked. They had some really neat templates, and they had some pre-selected effects that did awesome, neat little things with video. Especially some text effects that I used to create a lot of what I did for the web series that I worked on. But my problem is when I wanted to go just a little off course, where I liked what they did with the template, but I just wanted to go a little bit my own way. Well, there was no options really in Sony Vegas to edit outside of the bounds that they set. You wanted to do all sorts of weird, wild things that weren't intended by that template. I found I was having to build them from the ground up, and it was a lot harder than I wanted it to be. So what happened is I edited like that for probably a year. As I went on, I decided to start trying some of the other NLEs. I got a trial of Final Cut, I went and got Media Composer, and I played around with them. Ultimately, the one that really sold me was Adobe Premiere Pro. Reasons it sold me were quite simple. One, it didn't have the templates that Vegas had. But once I built the effect, I could tweak it any way I want. I had ultimate control. Now, when it came to some of the other cool things that Adobe did that Vegas did not, things like Dynamic Link. That's what lets you work on an Adobe Premiere Pro project, have your footage ingested in Adobe Prelude, brought in, lets you take your effect sequences, send them out right in the UI, right over to After Effects, work on them, bring them right back in. Lets you send over your grades with no rendering, no output settings, just send them right over to Adobe SpeedGrade to do your actual full-on grade. In addition to the basic versions of all of those tools right inside the editor. So after a while, I was using CS 5.5 at work, and eventually Adobe came out with this really neat thing called Creative Cloud. Okay, I think it's really neat. Not everybody shares my opinion. Some people don't like the idea of continually paying for software. Some people would prefer to pay for it once and use it forever. I'm the kind of guy who, runs the insider build of Windows back behind me there. I like the new stuff because I like to get new features. I don't mind features breaking on me. I will beta test all sorts of things. So as soon as Adobe Creative Cloud was available, I signed myself up, and I've been paying for it happily out of pocket ever since. The reason I pay for it out of pocket, of course, and not just have the business pay it, is because I pay it out of pocket, so it's my tool to do whatever I want with it. If a business pays for a tool, it's rightfully expected that that tool gets used for that business, or they get compensated for it. In my case, I wanted to use it for my own stuff, freelancing, YouTube videos. So I pick up the tab for it, they don't pay for it, and it works great. But that brings me to my actual ranting part. For me, I worked best in Adobe Premiere Pro. And if I have choice of what to edit in, that will be my choice every time. It's the one editing platform I have the most experience in, and it's the one I know the most other people who can work with me cross-platform if I need them. But I do not consider myself locked in and as a Adobe editor only. Sony Vegas and Premiere Pro are both great tools. And that's just what they are, tools. They are not editors. We call them that, but really they are tools. I am the editor. So if someone wants me to sit down, come in and cut their project using their Final Cut edit bay, or maybe they're using Media Composer, I'll sit right down and I'll learn what I need to learn, and I'll cut how they need me to cut. When it really comes down to it, it's the basic universal same principles. You can learn those in a matter of days. Keyboard shortcuts, you can relearn those. You can remap those. Minor workflow differences between the two. There are a lot of people who are versed in many. The point is not which tool I'm using. If I use a particular brand of hammer to build a house, that doesn't suddenly make the house better or worse. It just means that I happen to prefer how this hammer feels in my hand, and it's the one I own, so it's the one I use. And when it comes down to it, if somebody asked me to cut on like 35mm film, like real like splicing film, I'd learn how to do that. If somebody wants me to run a couple of VTRs and do a tape edit that way, I'll learn it. My big thing is I am an editor. That's kind of my specialization. I do everything. I do a little bit of everything else. But my specialization is editor. When it comes down to it, we're not Adobe editors or Vegas editors or Avid editors or Final Cut editors. When it comes down to it, we're just editors. All we do is string frames together in a fun, clever, emotional, dramatic, comedic way. That's all we do. And it is wonderful. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Till next time, that's a wrap.